Hello. First of all, I want to thank Bob and John for putting together this amazing event with so many people. I've spoken at a bunch of these before, but never one with so many brilliant and diverse people. So I'm really excited to be here, and I look forward to meeting a lot of people and learning from a lot of the speakers here. One of the main focuses of this weekend is consciousness. I'm sure most of us have used the term waking up when describing our journey from ignorance, into more information. I've always liked that term because it perfectly describes what's actually happening inside of our minds. It's easily comparable to the physical act of waking. Some people wake up easily, some need an alarm, and some need a bucket of ice-cold water dumped on their head before they can open their eyes. And that's just the easy part. What comes next is what makes all the difference and is the most difficult thing for most of us to do. In my own case, I was awake to a degree since I was a little girl. I marched on DC at the age of 4 with my father. I watched him get arrested for standing up for his own rights and the rights of others numerous times. And then when I was old enough, I did my own research. I was encouraged to question everything, including my heroes. Throughout high school, I quietly read 1984 and Fahrenheit 451 and Animal Farm, smoked a lot of weed and drank a lot of alcohol. Yeah. Then college hit, and YouTube was born, and reading books all night turned into watching YouTube videos all night. When I wasn't clubbing, drinking, or eating mushrooms, which wasn't very often. I could never talk about these things when I was high, though. It was too intense for me. I wanted to learn because I was really fascinated, but I just wasn't ready for any of it to be real. That's what the alcohol was for. Most of my 20s was a drunken mess of ignoring anything that was real. I would go to the occasional protest and get into the occasional political debate with a family member, but mostly I kept my studies to myself, especially my obsession with tyrannical regimes throughout history, which doesn't really go over well at a party, and Illuminati symbolism. I used to watch a lot of Mark Dice, and that's one of my biggest secrets that I never used to tell anyone. Anyway, I didn't really talk about it all that much, even though I did have a group of friends in my 20s and still do to this day, who are all very like-minded in that area and very supportive. It took me a long time to realize why I kept everything to myself, why I stayed up all night watching videos and reading Creature from Jekyll Island, but never discussing it with coworkers, friends, or family other than my dad. It was because I knew if I considered it real, then I had to do something about it. And I was way too selfish then to do anything about it. That's why I always say it's easy to wake up. Everyone wakes at some point. I was awake, but I just kept hitting snooze. Information is our mind's alarm clock. And especially now, in an age where information is literally in front of our eyes at all times, every single person's alarm clock in this country has already gone off. Only a few of us have decided to actually get out of bed and face the day. It's so easy to keep hitting snooze. I know when my alarm clock actually goes off in the morning, the last thing in the world I want to do is get out from under my comfy blankets and put my feet on the cold floor. When people say ignorance is bliss, they're absolutely right. Ignorance is the warm, comfy bed with big, fluffy pillows and warm, heavy blankets. It feels awesome to stay under there, but it's not really living. It takes strength and courage to throw the blankets aside, get up, and do something. Even if every person simply knew they were being oppressed but did nothing about it, nothing would ever change. Of course, trying to do something can be really frustrating and even dangerous. When every time we attempt to live freely or help others live freely, the hammer of the state tries to come crushing down on us. That makes it really easy to be angry and scared and negative. We are fighting against something very dangerous and evil. But when we're caught up in the struggle, it's important not to lose sight of the goal. It's important not to focus only on what we're against, but remember what we are for. The reason to resist injustice is so that people can be free and happy. The reason to try and break the chains, mental and physical, isn't just so we aren't wearing chains. It's so that we can live life without them. With all the horrible things happening in the world, it's easy to feel overwhelmed by the negative. But if, while we're trying to improve things, we can't still find some positivity, some joy and happiness, then the terrorists win. Obviously, it's going to be a while before we have a truly free, worldwide, voluntary society. And in the meantime, we should make it a point to enjoy life, even as we try to make things better. Not only is this necessary for our own well-being and happiness, which therefore makes us better able to keep pushing things in the right direction, but it also dramatically increases the likelihood of our message spreading. If we scream at the world, telling it everything we're against, without telling it what we are for, why would anyone want to listen? Most people are already awake enough to know that we live in a world with plenty of injustice and suffering. We have to show them that there is an alternative. Complaining and pointing out what is wrong, even when completely justified, by itself does not empower or free anyone. Showing what the world could be does. The message of self-ownership and a stateless, voluntary society is one all-inclusive vision that allows every individual not just to think and do what someone else says they should, or to follow some central conformist agenda, but to live life in whatever way the individual believes he should, with whatever goals, whatever priorities, whatever preferences and values the individual has. Well, except for one. If your goal is to dominate and control others, you won't like a truly free society, and it won't like you. Other than that, and this may sound a little cliche, the possibilities are endless. Voluntarism is the idea, and the only idea, that allows for peaceful coexistence between people with very different worldviews, different visions, and different goals. Our message to the world doesn't have to be, come be exactly like us, think exactly like us, and act exactly like us. Our message can be, strive to be whatever you think you should be, and let everyone else do likewise. When we aren't trying to control each other, our differences no longer put us at odds with each other. Instead, our differences make our lives complement each other. I don't know about you, but I don't want a world of people just like me, and I don't think you want that either. I want a world of people who are unique individuals, each in charge of his own life, figuring out his own purpose and working towards his own goals. If, while we're battling injustice and lies, we want an empowering, freeing message, I believe it should be this: your life and your future belong to you. There's another reason not to sound like we're saying everything is horrible, because everything isn't. Humanity has made huge progress in a lot of ways. For centuries, all sorts of injustice, slavery, war, domestic violence were just accepted as inevitable. Tyranny hardly even bothered to disguise itself as something else. The king's guards could be openly brutal, and most people just thought, oh well, that's how things are. It's a good sign that today's tyrants have to work so hard to try to disguise their agendas as being about compassion and good intentions. They have to lie, because most people will no longer just passively accept overt oppression. And that's progress, in my opinion. And there is huge progress in what people are thinking about and talking about. The fact that events like this are happening, and so far I haven't seen any drones or SWAT teams here, fingers crossed, is definitely a sign of progress. It wasn't all that long ago that saying the emperor has no clothes would get you tortured and murdered. And yes, even that still happens on occasion. But those in power are now completely incapable of silencing the message of freedom. Even in this country, it wasn't that long ago, a few decades if that, when very rarely, if ever, would you hear someone standing in front of a crowd or a camera proudly saying things like, I do not believe in flags or nations, I do not believe in governments and rulers, I am not beholden to any man-made authority or their so-called laws. There are now literally millions of websites, articles, videos, and books which are fully anti-authoritarian and pro-freedom. This message will spread until it covers the world. And in the end, there is nothing those in power can do to stop that. I think we always have to be conscious. I think we always have to be conscious of what the world is hearing from us, of what our message sounds like to them. If we sound like complaining fearmongers, we won't accomplish much. Instead, the message I think is worth spreading is more like this. We don't want to convert you to be just like us. We want to free you. We don't want you to give us control of your thoughts and actions. We want you to control your own thoughts and actions. We don't want you to follow us. We want you to lead yourselves. We want you to understand that you own yourself, and we want you to start acting like it. I also think it's important that those of us who believe in freedom routinely check up on our own motivations and agendas. And I found myself to be guilty of this in the past. Are we arguing just for the fun of it? Do we debate in order to feel superior? Or do we do what we do with the goal of freeing other people and giving them back control of their own lives? What we are doing is worthless unless the end goal is a world in which everyone, including people we don't like and have almost nothing in common with, can be free and happy. To achieve freedom for ourselves, we need to achieve it for everyone else too. For myself, I just don't want to be in some cool movement, in some exclusive club that gloats about how much we know and how little anyone else knows. Everything I've learned so far and everything else I still have to learn, I want the whole world to know. I want to see the awakening of humanity. Knowledge is power, and since we all start out ignorant, the only way to have a society where everyone can run his own life is to have everyone finding the truth and making it his own. I don't want to learn new things just so I can know stuff that other people don't. I want to learn things from others and teach things to others, so we all end up free. I have a poster on my wall that says, "Beaten paths are for beaten men." I want to seek out my own path to happiness, and I want others to be able to seek out theirs. Freedom is what allows that to happen. To end this, I just want to say something about letting go of fear and letting go of the illusion of control. Those who want to rule us need us to be scared of each other and need us to want to control each other. If we're constantly terrified of what other people might think or what they might do, then we will be tempted to look to some power to control everyone else. That is why governments always use fear-mongering and divide and conquer tactics. The answer to this is to let go of the illusion that you can control others. You can't force others to think what you want them to think or do what you want them to do or be what you want them to be. If you are an awake, aware, and conscious individual, the best you can do is invite several billion other people to be awake, aware, and conscious individuals. This doesn't mean that you have to like everybody or trust everybody. I don't. It does mean that you need to let them own themselves. And if they can see that you will do that, they will be far more open to what you have to say. If you want people in droves to get behind something, whether a cause, a movement, or an idea, it has to be a part of them. It has to be what they want and what they believe in. You can put a piece of truth in front of someone, but they have to make it their own, and they have to see the importance of it before they care and before they will do anything about it. In other words, you can't force someone to wake up. You can only invite them to wake up. But they have to be the one to decide to get out of bed, and you need to let them be the one to decide. I don't believe what I believe or do what I do because someone forced me to, and I'm guessing the same is true of everyone else here, with the possible exception of any government agents in the audience. I do what I do because I believe in it, because it is what I choose to be, and I have to allow everyone else to choose what they want to be. But I'm quite confident that almost everyone, if and when he truly understands the concept of self-ownership and can see past the fear and the propaganda that those in power spread, will also choose to be a free, conscious, awake human being. Billions of individuals choosing that is what's going to eventually empower and liberate the entire human race.
Josie Wells.